Hi there! The new Plentiful Patterns standalone die set from Altenew is full of possibilities. Let me show you how you use one stencil to create two different looks in a card. So come join me. Welcome to today's project. Nathalie here to show you a fun idea on how you can use one stencil to create two different looking cards. So let me start with the Bountiful Butterflies stencil set. This is a stencil set that comprises of three stencils. One that is going to give you the shape of the butterflies, they just flying together. Another one that's going to create the shadow around the butterflies, and the third one that is going to allow you to create each butterfly on its own. So I'm starting with the pattern that has the butterflies like all together, and I've cut a 110-pound Nina Solar cardstock to 4.5 by 5 3/4. I just want a bigger canvas to apply my stencil, and I am using Arctic Pigment Ink and my large ink blending tool to apply the ink onto my cardstock. And I'm just picking up some of the ink, just kind of patting my brush on the ink pad, and then I'm going to go in a circular motion on top of the stencil to create the impression on the cardstock. I'm going to make sure that I fill the entire area. I'm holding it together with a little piece of washi tape. I made the cardstock a little bit bigger, so I know I'm going to trim some of it down. So once I have that, I'm gonna move that stencil and move on to the second stencil. Now you're gonna see that when you apply the second stencil, it creates a small little outline, like a white outline around the butterfly. You wanna make sure that you have that so you see the separation between the butterflies. And I'm using Caribbean Sky for the second color. I'm gonna use the same application with my ink blending brush, but this time I'm creating the shadow or the space in between the butterflies. Once I have that ready, you're gonna see that I'm gonna come in back with the stencil number 1, and I'm gonna bring my ink blending brushes, and I'm gonna use the smallest one. I wanna apply some ink to add some detail to the thorax and the antennae of the butterflies. For this I am using Sapphire Pigment Ink, and I'm just carefully going, that's what I'm using, the smallest ink blending brush, just so that I can add the ink just to the antennae on the thorax. I just want to have that definition on the background. Very simple. You're gonna see that I'm gonna get it there. I'm gonna set it on the side and get it ready, and then I'm gonna start building. I actually built another background using Forest Glades pigment ink, and you're gonna see after what I do with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start building just one butterfly on its own, and for this you're gonna use a stencil 3. I'm starting with jet black. I want to create the thorax, and then I'm going to apply the antennae. So just to make sure that I have the precise positioning, I'm going to bring the die set. I'm going to place the die around the thorax, and then I'm going to slide. I'm going to put the stencil on top of it, and I'm going to slide out the die so that it's going to give me the perfect placement. And then I'm going to apply my antennae, and then I'm going to continue working on building the butterfly the same fashion. So for the wings, I want something that is going to contrast with the background. So I'm going to go with Buttercream Pigment Ink. Blue and yellow is a nice complementary contrast. So I'm going to apply my Buttercream Pigment Ink. You're going to see that I'm collecting my ink with my ink blending brush. I'm going to sweep the ink right at the center with the wing attaches to the thorax. I'm going to sweep the ink and then kind of diffuse it or fuse it towards the edge of the wing. That's just going to create a little bit of depth closest to the thorax on the wing. So I'm just going to go ahead and create my two large wings, and then once I have those ready, I'm going to start building the bottom part of the wing. Now there's a little hint here. When you use the die, you have to leave a little line in between. There's a tiny little space in the stencil between the larger wing and the smaller wing at the bottom. And again, I'm going to use the second color of the inks, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the third color just to add a little bit of shadow. So I'm just applying a little bit towards the center, towards the part of the wing that's closest to the thorax, just to add some depth. After that, you're going to see that I have created, like I said, something with forest glaze on a piece of cardstock, and I just heat it with my heat gun just so the ink sets. So outside of the camera, I went ahead and trimmed my background into 4 inches by 5 1/4, so that's smaller than my A2 card. I went ahead and used the U Matter die set. This is one of the new die sets. I carved the word U out of glitter cardstock, and I cut the scripted part and then the offset out of white cardstock, so I'm going to glue them together. That's going to be part of my title. I also die cut the butterfly using the die set, the Bountiful butterflies die set, and I also cut a piece of vellum the same size. I'm going to layer the vellum underneath the butterfly just to give me some more interest on my card. I'm using a little bit of the instant dimension foam adhesive in between the layers, and then I went into the die set and cut the Matter to Me. So my sentiment is going to be You Matter to Me. I cut the You Matter to Me strip out of gradient cardstock. This is from the Seashore collection, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the U right onto the panel. I'm going to trim the excess because it has like a little curl on the side. I'm going to trim that. I'm going to add some foam adhesive behind the You Matter just because I want to make sure that that kind of stands out, and then I'm going to place the butterfly at the bottom. Super simple. I love how this turned out. Now for the other card panel that I said that I created, I used, like I said, forest glaze, the same as stencil, but I just went with the shadow. I want to just create kind of a background for this card. I used the nesting slim rectangle die set to create the basis for my slimline card. I want the part that I created the stenciling to be the background, so I made it really short. So what I've done outside of the camera is I am using, this is gradient cardstock in coffee and cherry blossoms, and I am using the itty bitty flowers die set to create all these flowers. And again, this is part of the new release. I want to make that the focal point of my card. So you're gonna see that I usually, when I work with gradient cardstock, I add a piece of the double adhesive sheets from Altenew to the background, so I convert my die cuts into pretty much stickers. So I just peel and stick, makes it really easy to put anything together, and I'm just following the guide to build my little cluster of florals. Once I have half of it done, I'm gonna stick it, peel, not stick it, but really I'm gonna peel the backing of the double adhesive and stick it onto my card panel, the small one that I added the little stenciling, and then I'm just gonna finish adding the rest of the flowers. Now here's where I'm gonna add a little bit of foam adhesive just to attach this smaller slimline card onto the larger panel. So I'm gonna put it right on the top half of my card, and then I went on to the You Matter die set, and I don't want to use the U, it's too big for this card, so instead I'm gonna use one of the sentiments that says "Can count on me." So I'm gonna trim the can so you just have the "Count on me," and I cut that out of gradient cardstock from the pink ruby. That's the color of the cardstock. That's from the Pink Brilliance, and I'm gonna add a little bit of foam adhesive behind it just to make it pop, and that's about it. A little bit of shine, you know, doesn't hurt. It's always a good finishing touch. And that's it for my cards. This took no time to put together, and I love the fact that one stencil created 2 different looks in the cards. So as always, don't forget to check the blog for more ideas and join in the blog hub. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you very soon. Take care, guys.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.